All right. Welcome back. If you're a veteran and you're struggling or feel like you are leading a path towards the darkness, stop and think about those who are around you. Think about how they truly value you, how they will miss you. You are not alone. You need to talk to someone. Someone will listen to you. If you feel like you'll be a burden to someone, or you don't feel like you should put that weight on your inner circle, call the hotline at 988 and take option 1. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at _MisFitNation. It's _MisFitNation. This will keep you up to date with our latest news, episodes, and of course, our great guests. Speaking of which, our next guest is a parent, grandparent, author, historian, and retired educator with 40 years of experience working with children both in the general and special needs population, serving as a teacher, principal, and school administrator. Now retired, she wrote a series of history nonfiction books for children with the mission to entertain, inspire, and empower them to become tomorrow's leaders. Many of her books invite children and their parents to learn more about the contributions of veterans. So without further ado, let's welcome Barbara Mojica to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Barbara. How are you?
I'm doing great today. Thanks so much, Rich. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
It's awesome to link up with you. Like I told you in the pre-show, I had a teacher by the name of Miss Mojica when I was in elementary school and high school. So when I seen the name, I said, I got to jump on this. And then you being a history teacher like my wife, I said, if I didn't bring you on, I wouldn't be able to eat dinner some nights. So let me get on here.
Well, we know how that goes.
So welcome. If you want to share some more of your background from as far back as you want to go to how we got to where we are now, that'd be awesome.
Okay, well, I had a very common background. I was born actually in Brooklyn, New York, and I grew up right on the border between Brooklyn and Queens. I was born into a lower class working family. And I didn't really have much opportunity to think about getting beyond that set of circumstances. My parents, neither of them had finished high school. They were children of the Depression. And they did support me in all I wanted to do as far as education goes, but they didn't have the financial resources. So I was determined. I just loved school from day one. I loved to read. I loved to find out about people who had gone to all kinds of interesting places and had all kinds of different experiences. I wanted to travel. So I was determined, and I was very lucky in having a teacher in high school who really pushed me to to get beyond what I thought were my limitations. So she told me I really had to go to college. And I started thinking about that. So I started taking the academic courses that I needed. The plan was for me to become an office worker, a secretary. So she quickly changed my mindset. And because of that, she was a fantastic history teacher. The love of the way she enthused and inspired me to see myself as a character in history myself. So I started going to college. I was very lucky that at the time the public education system in New York City was available on a merit basis. So because I studied really, really hard, I got great grades, I was able to get into the school of my choice. And I was able to finish college as a history major and even to get a scholarship for graduate school because I worked very hard in college. And one of my professors recommended me for a scholarship. So I was even able to get to graduate school. So I had achieved things that I never thought possible, that would be way, way beyond my limits. And I've always had that determination. So I have tried to instill that in all of my students. I was drawn to education because I loved history, I loved research, but I couldn't see myself as one of these people in the ivory towers, and just spending all of my time in the world of academia. I wanted to be involved with people. So I wound up teaching. And for 40 years, I taught in all kinds of settings. I started out with children in the general population, and then I realized that the educational system wasn't meeting the needs of so many children. And I saw that they learned in so many different ways. And I became interested in special education. So back to school again. I went and took another degree, another certification in special education. And I taught children with uh, very, very extreme special needs. So I was working with autistic children, crack cocaine babies, physically impaired children, Down syndrome, the whole range of issues. And I really became involved in the whole process of special education, not just the teaching. And I became a principal of a special ed school, and then eventually a school district administration official in New York City. So my career just kind of kept evolving, but it was always based on a desire to push myself to the limits and to allow children to pursue the very best that they could achieve, even if they had limitations that appeared to be holding them back.
That's very important. And as the years ago when you started that, it wasn't so much of a, I guess, emphasis on the special needs children that were right alongside the general ed kids. Right now in the classes here, they're mixed together, and it kind of it's a challenge
Yes.
for the general ed teachers who aren't trained in the special needs uh, area, the special ed area, to do both at the same time. Uh, so I know it was a challenge for you making that switch, but you had the passion to do it and jump right in there and do it.
And at the time, there were, well, the special needs programs were just uh, really gaining strength, and parents were slowly becoming aware of what was available for them. That was a big part of my mission, helping parents to get the maximum benefit from whatever they could possibly get to help their children, because so many parents weren't aware of what they could do. And that's why I got so involved with the early childhood special ed, because if we get children into the programs when they are young, often they don't need those programs as they get older, and they can transition into a normal setting. But the problem today is, as you mentioned correctly, that we are now looking to save money, and we, under the umbrella of being inclusive and diverse, we are mixing children who really do have special needs that cannot be met in the general education setting. And the teachers, certainly, most of them are not prepared to handle that. I know I myself, I've worked in the special education isolation type of setting, where it was a very, very small group, 10 or 12 children, with a special ed teacher and all kinds of resources like speech and occupational therapy and physical therapy. But I've also worked in the quote team teacher setting. And in those classes, very often the needs of kids are not being met. And I know I had to work really hard to get some children who were in that kind of setting out of it, because their needs totally weren't being met. But it's an uphill battle. And most districts, again, they say, well, we'll put them in a collaborative team teaching setting. Both sides will benefit. And in most cases, they don't work out nearly as well as they should. And special ed teachers today are so overwhelmed with the paperwork and just the whole process of documenting every little thing that they do. It's true that you have to meet the needs of the child on the IEP, but the paperwork for special ed and for regular ed teachers is so overwhelming now because everything is teach to the test, document what you're doing, and in doing that, our educational status has actually fallen in the last 20 years. The United States has fallen from a position at the very top of the ladder in worldwide standings to below number 20. And we're certainly not doing our best. And the teachers are overwhelmed, the paperwork is overwhelming, uh, the amount of stress and anxiety that is placed on not only the teachers but the students to perform is just something that just is falling apart at the seams. In my opinion, I don't really approve of the Common Core because, again, you're not meeting the needs of individuals. You're trying to come up with some standard that's going to fit all. One size doesn't fit all. And we have children with language difficulties, and they certainly can't meet these standards. They don't even understand the testing. They don't understand the cultural background. They don't understand how to relate to their own families, their own teachers. They're just kind of lost in the whole setting. I've worked with parents, children who had to bring in a brother or sister to translate because nobody in the family could talk to the teacher. The grandparent came from China. The grandparent is watching the children because the parents are working 10 hours a day. So these are all issues that can't be addressed by saying, well, we're going to come up with this wonderful program and we're going to bring every child up to standards, and we're failing at it. And it's just such a problem because the teachers are suffering, the parents are suffering, the children are suffering, and one size doesn't fit all. So I firmly believe that parents are the first teachers, and I think that parents should be given more control in deciding the type of education they want for their children. And COVID, of course, has brought that to the forefront because parents are now much more aware of what's being taught in the schools and how it's being taught in the schools, having now seen the virtual online teaching. So now we have parents who are a lot more willing to get involved because they have now only become aware of what the situation truly is.
Yeah, I think the 2 years during the COVID, I guess a lot, of, especially in where you are in Northeast, a lot of things were shut down for completely for 2 years. Down here, we were kind of hybrid, half in the classroom, half on the computer. So you'd have half the kids in the classroom while the other half were home, and the teacher's trying to teach to both at the same
Both of
time.
them. Well,
And
right now, yeah,
it's
I'm
hard.
sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but right now I am not in the city. Since I've retired, I've moved upstate.
Okay.
My own school district was in that kind of hybrid situation that you mentioned, but in the city, and most major cities across the country, it's exactly as you described. They were just shut down, and the emotional toll that took on children is another really sad aspect because so many children uh, now are going to be even further behind than than they were before.
Definitely, and that goes to your statement earlier about where the U.S. ranks on the top of education, and now we're below 20. And I think after they do the next assessment, we'll probably be even lower because those 2 years, those children lost everything. They lost social interaction, they lost actual teacher interaction, and they kind of lost their way a little bit. Now they're trying to just slowly getting back into it. A lot of them lost their manners, their social behaviors.
Hmm.
Everything kind of went out the window due to not having contact, not just that they didn't have it before. It's that they just had no contact with humans, and that kind of hurts a lot of people, both young kids and the teachers and everyone in the world, really.
It's just a really, really sad, unfortunate situation, which I hope we will bounce back from. I'm an eternal optimist, so if you see my character in my books, my little Miss History is always looking on the bright side of things, and I think that's important for all of us to remember that keeping a positive mindset is so important for parents as well as teachers. It's we're surrounded by so much negativity today. It's really, really difficult to do, but we have to do it. And I think that parents, again, have got to step up and assume the mantle that has been dropped to a large extent by all of the factors that have gone into changing our lives in the past few years. So we have to get back to values. Parents have to get back to teaching the things that the schools are not teaching. And one of the big things is critical thinking. I think the schools are, again, more concerned with what they're teaching, coming up to these arbitrary standards, than how to think. And our children are not being taught how to think. And this is one of the most important aspects of history, because history teaches us how to be critical thinkers. And critical thinking skills are really not being emphasized in the schools, and parents have to take up the slack with that. I mean, there are ways to encourage critical thinking uh, in children. Parents can kind of uh, take children and be aware of the how to think kind of processes. Children are always asking questions, so they have insatiable curiosity. They want to know the who, the what, the when, the why. And parents need to encourage them to observe and to analyze and to infer and give their own opinions, because if parents can encourage children to be curious, and they can encourage children to find solutions to things. We have the helicopter parents who are always hovering over the children. Then we have the authoritative parents who, I'm the boss and you do what I say because I'm the adult and you're the child. But there has to be a kind of parenting in which you teach a child the necessary life skills in a very responsible and respectful way. Parents have to teach children respect. If they don't learn respect in the home, they're certainly not going to be respectful in the classroom or in the community. They have to teach children to be kind and to have empathy for others, and to be honest in what they think, to express their opinions, but at the same time to try to accept that there are multiple perspectives and there's always another way of thinking. And parents need to show children that there are always other options. It's not just my way or the highway, that they have to show children that sometimes we can negotiate things. And when a child grows up, he or she is going to have to learn how to delegate responsibility, how to be a good example, how to understand that sometimes things have to change. We can't always have things the way we want or the way we're comfortable with. So parents have to help children along with that, make sure that they learn to have a sense of gratitude for what they have, not always looking for more, more, more. I've got to have more toys. I've got to have the better bicycle. Uh, they can teach children that sometimes we should be grateful for the things that we do have that we take for granted, and uh, they need to show a child unconditional love and acceptance. On the other hand, they have to be able to point out when a child makes a mistake, when there are flaws, when there are uh, problems. The child needs to understand that they're being corrected in a loving and respectful way, but that we're doing this so that the child will learn how to function later on as an adult, as a good citizen in society. So there are lots of barriers to critical thinking, and we have to try to teach them to avoid them. Like, especially in our world of social media, what do we have today? We don't get all of the information that we need. And children are very, very susceptible to the pressures of social media, particularly teenagers, of course. They want to fit in with their peers. So we have to let them uh, see that some people don't look at multiple perspectives, that some people only look at things from one point of view, and if they're being taught in school that there's only one way to handle the problem, it's my way or the highway, then that's going to have a detrimental effect on them as when they grow and become future adult citizens. They have to learn that there isn't just one perspective, there are multiple perspectives. Sometimes there isn't an answer to a question. Sometimes the answer is that there's no answer. And that's another thing that history teaches us. History teaches us that there have been mistakes made in the past, but hopefully we have learned from that past to create some kind of a framework or a legacy to give us the ability to correct what didn't work, to build on that, and to create something that's better in the future. So I like to say that yesterday plus today equals tomorrow. We always have an ability to grow and change and to use the knowledge of the past to build a better future. So if we go into history and we use critical thinking to analyze what happened, to observe it, to realize that the way things happened in the past are not the way things are happening now, because our whole system of communication has changed. How much have things changed in the last 10 years? So we can't judge what happened in the past based on the information and the ability of the technology that we have today. That's another big issue. Um, we have to realize that we are constantly growing, we are constantly adapting, we are constantly expanding our ability to come up with new and better solutions. And we all have to work to do it better, to encourage the independence, to encourage each one of us to grow, to change, to be the best person we can be, to be the best citizen we can be, to be the best uh, member of our family, to be the best member of our community, to be the best member of our whole world global culture. And leaders are not the only ones who can do that, because we all have the ability to lead within ourselves in some way. And each one of us has to play a role in our family, in our community, and eventually, as a voter, as a citizen, as a respectful member of the world community.
I agree, and everything you said there answered most of my questions I had for you. I didn't get to ask, but you gave the answers. We didn't get to jump into your books yet, so let's talk about your children's series a little real quick here, so we can get that and let the audience know about how you came about to write them and how they're doing and where they can find them.
Well, I retired, and that didn't really sit well with me. I figured I wanted to kind of move upstate. I wanted to get out of the environment that I felt was becoming very oppressive, and I was very dissatisfied with the way things were going as far as the education system as a whole. So when I retired, I wanted to keep in touch with kids, and I wanted, of course, to go back to my roots with history. So I began writing articles for a local news magazine, history, short articles for the local news magazine. But I wanted to do something with kids. So my husband suggested developing a character who would narrate my series, because I wanted to make it fun, exciting, interesting for kids, and I wanted to be an interactive experience. So my husband is an artist, and he has some experience also with children's books. So he developed this character for me, Little Miss History, who's based on a younger version of me, and she's optimistic. She wears rose-colored glasses. She has this kind of camping, hiking outfit because she's a great explorer and she wants to visit the world just like I did. As soon as I had the opportunity to go traveling, that's what I did. And she wears these oversized boots in memory of my father's big feet. So she's like a real composite of me. And Little Miss History takes the children on these adventures. Now, some of them are iconic sites like the Statue of Liberty or Mount Rushmore. Some of them are national parks, like Sequoia National Park. Some of them are international sites, like the North Pole. Some of them are military history books, because I have a great affinity for veterans and the sacrifices that they make. So I have a book on the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum. I have a book on the battleship Iowa, which is dedicated to those who were killed in the unfortunate accident in 1989 aboard ship. And I try to make the books cover multidisciplinary areas. So not only do I talk about history, I talk about science, I talk about nature, I talk about prehistory. My La Brea Tar Pits books goes all the way back to prehistory, and the scientists who are right now digging at that site. So I try to make it a diverse experience, and I hope that parents and teachers will be encouraged to bring children and to have them physically visit these sites, because I think once you actually go into a community and physically experience uh, the history, that becomes much more real to you. So that's the way I set about to do the series. They're interactive, as I said. I have questions that I ask the children. I talk to them about pollution. I talk to them about Native American rights. We talk about African American rights. We talk about the presidents and how they lived. I have books on their homes, like Jefferson's Monticello and Mount Vernon. So we go into the kind of areas that children experience themselves. What's a home like? What is a national park like? Uh, what would visiting one of these famous sites like the Statue of Liberty or Ellis Island be like? And then I also involve literature and myth and nature and science. So it's all put together into a total package. And I want children, again, to be able to explore different areas of interest. And then from there, they can go off and they can delve into it to a greater degree. So my books again are interactive. I ask them questions. I ask for their opinions. I want them to go back to do more, to talk to their families, to talk to their teachers, to talk to their friends, and to have them understand that they are actually character in history the day they're born, because we're born into a middle of a story. We're not at the beginning. We're not at the end. We're born smack into the middle of history. In our family, there are those that came before us. There are those that will come after us. In the same in our community and in our world. And it's our responsibility to be the best that we can be in our time here on the earth and in this world.
Awesome. And how does someone get in contact with you to either purchase the books or just to chat with you?
Well, I have multiple areas of contact. My website is the best way to start, littlemisshistory.com. And on my website, I have links to all of my resources. So I try to provide parents and teachers with as many resources as I can. So I have on my website, I have the books, I have testimonials and explanations of what's in the books, I have reviews. I have a blog. On my blog, I review children's books and family friendly books. So on the blog, you can go to my blog for book reviews and suggestions. I have tips and tricks on my blog. I have tips for authors, tips for parents, tips for teachers. I have a YouTube channel, and I developed that especially during COVID. So I do little mini lessons for children. I have history videos. I have lessons that parents or teachers can use to supplement learning in the classroom, not only on history, but all areas, science, math, language, whatever. And I have the usual social media channels like, Twitter and a Facebook page and so on. I have a direct chat on my blog. So if parents are looking to contact me, or teachers or authors, they can just hit that button and do a virtual chat, or they can email me directly. So that is the best place. My books are available worldwide. Uh, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, independent bookstores, and bookshop.org, pretty much anywhere that you would buy books.
Awesome. Thank you, Barbara. And thanks again for taking some of your time to share your journey with the Misfit Nation tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com to catch up on all of our episodes and also to get some of that great Misfit Nation gear. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are